You know, when you think of a fire investigator, you probably get this image of someone in a heavy coat, carefully sifting through ashes, relying on nothing but instinct and years of hard-won experience. What you probably don't picture is that same person collaborating with artificial intelligence. But believe it or not, that's exactly what's starting to happen. So today we're diving into this really surprising intersection of a super traditional, high-stakes job and the absolute cutting edge of AI.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the pressures that kind of forced this change in the first place. That's, where we've been. Then we'll get right into this new partnership with AI. That's where we are right now. We'll look at the actual tools investigators are using, then tackle the really critical risks, and finally, we'll peek into the future of the fire scene, where this whole thing is going.
So first things first, why is this even a conversation? Why bring AI into this at all? Well, to get that, we need to set the scene and really understand the intense challenges that modern fire investigators are facing every single day. And to put it simply, their job has gotten so much harder. This whole push for new technology, it didn't come out of nowhere. It's not about getting shiny new toys. It came from a very real-world problem of professional demands that were just stretching investigators to their absolute limits. This right here, this is the perfect storm. Just look at this. You've got caseloads that are just getting bigger and bigger. At the exact same time, the amount of documentation you need for legal cases is exploding. And on top of all of that, every single thing an investigator does, their entire method, is being scrutinized under a microscope like never before. Something had to give. And that is where our new digital partner enters the picture. But let's be super clear about this from the get-go. We are not talking about replacing human experts, not even close. We're talking about a new kind of powerful assistant. This is the reality of where we are now. The key idea to really wrap your head around is this one: AI as a force multiplier. It's a great term. It doesn't give an investigator brand new skills. What it does is amplify the skills they already have. It helps a great investigator manage way more information, write reports faster, and focus their brainpower on what actually matters, figuring out what happened. And this quote, this is the fundamental ground rule for this entire partnership. It's so important. The investigator, the human, feeds the AI the verified facts, their direct observations from the scene. The AI's only job is to organize that information. It is never allowed to make up its own facts, come up with its own opinions, or draw its own conclusions. That is a critical red line it just cannot cross. Okay, so enough with the theory. Let's get practical. How does this actually work day to day? What's inside this new AI toolkit? Well, the first big job is tackling that mountain of paperwork we were just talking about. An investigator can basically dump their raw notes in, and the AI helps structure it all into a clear, professional report. It can clean up the grammar, but more importantly, it makes sure the language is totally consistent from page 1 all the way to the final appendix. This alone saves a massive amount of time. But it goes a lot deeper than just grammar. And this is really cool. The AI can act like a check on the scientific method itself. It helps the investigator maintain that supercritical separation between what they saw, the raw objective observation, and what they think it means, the analysis. It's like a digital partner that keeps track of all the different hypotheses, noting which ones have been rolled out and why, just to make sure the final conclusion is built on a rock-solid, logical foundation. But of course, with any powerful new tool, there are always dangers. We absolutely have to talk about the other side of this story. We need to talk about the red lines that can never, ever be crossed, and the ethical guardrails that have to be in place to prevent a total disaster. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. On one hand, yeah, AI can help an investigator describe a fire pattern using objective, standardized language, which helps stop them from jumping to conclusions too early. But, and this is a huge but, on the other hand, the AI cannot see. It has no scene experience. It has no idea how to tell the difference between two burn patterns that look similar but have totally different causes. That is still a fundamentally human skill. So let's just ask the question directly, because the stakes here are unbelievably high. What's the absolute worst that could happen if these tools are used the wrong way? And the dangers are really serious. An investigator could get lazy, just accept the AI's polished writing without thinking, and end up with a report that looks great on the surface but is actually really weak. Even worse is something called an AI hallucination. This is where the AI literally invents plausible-sounding facts that are completely made up. Now just imagine one of those fake facts ending up in a legal document.
It's not just unprofessional, it is an absolute legal minefield. So, all of this brings us to our final stop, the future. We've seen the pressures of the past, we've looked at the tools and risks of today, so where is this all going? What's next for this human AI team? You know, what's really clear is what won't change, the core of the job. The hands-on scene experience, deep knowledge of how fire behaves, interpreting evidence, testifying in court, that stuff is always going to be human. But the tools, they're going to get so much better. We're probably looking at integrated platforms that make reporting seamless, unbelievably realistic training simulators that use AI for feedback, and automated checks that make sure every report is up to the highest possible standard.
And in the end, it all comes down to this single quote. This is the big takeaway. Technology is going to keep evolving, and it's going to offer incredible new tools. But it will never, ever replace professional judgment or ethical responsibility. The AI is a tool. The investigator, the human expert, is and must always, always remain the final authority.